What's going on, guys? It's Coach Steven with 15 Points of Tennis. And it might seem like a no-brainer, but too many players just happen to hit the ball wherever it happens to be in the strike zone, and that's bad. See, your strike zone is where you get the most power right here and control with the least amount of effort. All right, think about in baseball, okay, the batters all have a hitting zone. If the pitcher doesn't throw the ball within that box, that hitting zone, you don't even want to swing, right? And even within that hitting zone, some players have a much higher percentage, even within certain spots of that hitting zone, of hitting a home run. So, moral of the story is, being a great batter is not just about your skill level, it's really about waiting for and swinging at the right pitch.
Deals, and Bonds hits one high, hits it deep, it is out of here!
So if you don't understand the topics that we're going to discuss here today, you can improve your athleticism, your skill set all you want, but you'll probably only be a mediocre player at best. Do not underestimate the power of the strike zone if you want to be a highly effective and efficient tennis assassin, basically an offensive player. Okay, so before you start, hit that notification bell to make sure you get all the feature videos. All right, let's get started right now. Funny enough, some players I work with even have better backhands than forehands, but they still prefer to hit their forehand. And the reason why is the strike zone on the forehand side is much, much bigger. I'd say the forehand strike zone is probably about maybe your shoulder level to knees, okay? Compared to your backhand, it's maybe about chest height to your thighs, so much, much smaller. Now, if you were to, right now, if you have a racket around, you pick up a racket, take a few shadow swings, right? Where do you feel the strongest? Okay, now stop where you feel the strongest. For me, I'm gonna start right here. For every handful of inches above or below that strike zone I hit the ball, my percentages, whether it's baseball, tennis, they start to go down. Now, it might not seem that noticeable at first, and especially when you watch the pros, all right? Because the pros, one thing they do is they train strength with a full range of motion. For example, say, Djokovic's trainer might have him, put his leg all the way to one side in some awkward contorted position and have him push with his leg, fully extended and fully stretched. And that's why, these guys are so strong. Like Djokovic can be reaching all the way like this and just still hit the ball pretty hard and have strength from out there and do miraculous things. Now, players like you and me, the average guys, we don't have strength from that kind of position, right? Now, even at the highest level, say Federer, right? He takes the backhand a little higher out of his strikes than normal. The ball comes back a little bit weaker. He's playing Nadal, all right? He's in big trouble. All right, and when we look at strike zones, what Nadal's trying to do, he's a master of, hitting different heights and spins. And that top spin, it changes the balance of the ball every time. If you can't catch the ball in your strike zone, it's almost impossible to attack Nadal. And at a much lower level, when I was in juniors, I'd hit heavy topspin lobs, keep that ball out of my opponent's strike zone. I won a lot of matches that way. Guys, when you play pushers, this is what they're trying to do. And this has to be a part of your strategy to prevent your opponent from playing their best tennis. Now, on the flip side, when it comes to your side of the net, the focus should be, well, obviously, to catch the ball in your strike zone as frequently as possible if you want to attack him. This all starts with your feet. So in my online program, I go a lot deeper into footwork, but I do want to mention the topic of foot-eye coordination here, which is essentially foot-eye coordination is coordinating your feet and your eyes and syncing it with the ball. And sadly, unfortunately, foot-eye coordination kind of gets masked by hand-eye coordination. A lot of times when we're going for the ball, if our feet are a little bit out of position or we're reaching, it's very easy to just use our hands to adjust and just get the ball back to the court. But if you want to attack at a much higher level, like you've got to get your feet in perfect position and just take the ball right here. Okay, so we're going to do a little drill to help you with this skill. basically, we're going to get two balls like this. We're going to put them in between your elbows right here, and you're either going to catch balls like this, or you're either going to actually hit balls like this. Let's show you what's going on here. With the balls between my elbows, my strike zone is fixed, and I have to really watch the ball intently because I'm going to get instant feedback like that last one when I'm a little bit late or when I'm not in position and hit the ball in my strike zone. And if you want to make this more difficult, it will show you in a sec. You make the lobs higher, you hit the lobs to the corner, okay, you mix up different shots. If you're hitting backhands, especially a two-handed backhand, you better be able to do this because there's no room for error. Two-handed backhand takes a lot more footwork than just being able to hit in such a big strike zone. You're going to watch a student after this rally to finish the point. He's going to get away with letting the ball drop and just reach for it. This one. That's called adjusting with your hand-eye coordination. It's not the greatest way to put the ball away consistently. That one was jammed and he had to get it out of the way. So for balls that float, I don't do it well all the time, but this one you can see the spacing. I've already judged the flight of the ball, and that's going to raise your percentage dramatically when the ball starts moving up and down more vertically. Now let's discuss why motion matters. All right, whenever I'm transferring energy to another object and striking something, whether it's I'm striking the ball like this in billiards, or for this example I'm going to use throwing a punch to illustrate this. When I'm striking a still object, I know exactly where to focus my energy. So I'm going to punch this little Nerf ball here. It's nice and soft, all right? But as you can see, I'm going to get a little snap. I see it like I know because I know that one point, boom, right there, pa, pa, pa. Like I know that one point where I'm focusing my energy, right? That's a lot easier than now he's going to just move the ball slightly, and now even though I'm making contact with the ball, I know it's a little hard to tell, but just the moving object, I'm having a little bit tougher of a time knowing where to pa, 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 right? Because it's moving forward, back, left, and right. And that's very much how you're hitting a tennis ball, right? Because a tennis ball is never still. Now, in an ideal world, we want to hit the ball at the peak of the bounce, okay? Because when the ball bounces up and reaches its peak, we call that a dead ball because it's neither rising or falling. It's the most still as it can get. So that ball, you can either attack better. This is a big one. Change direction better. Okay, if you watch a player like Federer, he's always moving up into the court here, taking the ball at the peak, and obviously just crushing the ball. The big mistake players make, especially on short balls, see once that ball starts to drop, a few inches, a few more inches, that ball, when it's dropping for a short ball, it's so much more difficult. You need a much higher skill level to put that ball away. The only case where letting the ball might drop could help you is if you're letting the ball drop to hit heavy topspin, because you can use the momentum of the ball coming down to hit up. I say like using the gravity of the ball, right? So you'll sometimes see Nadal more so on defense. Instead of taking the ball on the rise here, he'll run back, let the ball drop, and as the ball's dropping, use that momentum, and hit that ball 8-10 feet above the net. All right, and that's for a specific heavy topspin. But most flatter players are always looking to move forward, take it early, more closer to the peak, drive it and hit it flat. And for the average player like you and I, we can't get our feet in position to get the ball at the peak every single time. But on short balls, this is going to be very, very crucial to increasing your percentages. Observing the top screen, you can see the depth a lot better. Now the first three balls I'm going to let drop. Therefore, I have to put a little bit more spin and take a little pace off. This is a much tougher put away for the average player, and to say the least, I am no Roger Federer. But it's just making it unnecessarily tough. Why do that compared to taking the ball at the peak? As you can see, I can drive it down at a higher angle over the net. The ball is still, so I can have more confidence hitting through it. That was a little bit more on the rise, so I took some pace off. Here's another one at the peak. This should be your primary focus on short balls. In this point, the student on the far side is going to get a short ball, great setup here. Then he's going to let it drop, and that's a tough put away to spin it up and down. A much higher percentage, if you can see the ball early, is to move forward right away. But you got to see the ball early. If you react late, it's tough. Right? Here's a nice on the rise, using the pace of the on the rise and not overhitting the ball. Another great example is on the kick serve. If I'm Rafael Nadal, I can let the ball drop and rip it up with topspin, but I'm not Rafael Nadal. I need to catch the ball at the peak, and so I move in as fast as I can, or else I'm dead meat. If Roger doesn't catch the ball at the peak or on the rise, offense is very difficult. And this dynamic is so accentuated when Nadal and Federer play each other. Okay, just watch for that peak. But when it comes to playing defense, letting the ball drop and hitting heavy topspin can actually benefit. You're going to see these next few points. When Rafa takes the ball lower, he can actually increase his trajectory. And that ball is falling and dropping like a meteor. It's just so heavy off the strings and hard to attack. All right, now let's move to hitting on the rise. And imagine yourself as fielding in baseball. All right, the two easiest pitches to field are, number one, the long hop. So just like we talked about, letting the ball bounce in front of you, letting the ball rise up to the peak. When it rises up to the peak, your eyes have time to track the ball, catch it right in the mitt. The second easiest ball to catch is actually off the short hop. So when I get low for the short hop and catch it right off the ground, there's very little room for error. I know exactly where the ball is going to land because I've tracked it in the air, and the distance is very short from the ground to my mitt. Boom, I can make the catch. The hardest catch to make in baseball is the in-between hop. All right, so about like maybe right here when the ball's coming down, because your eyes don't have much time to see the ball, and it's a longer distance maybe for a bad bounce. So a lot of times it hits the player right in the chest in baseball. So that's the one you want to avoid. Now, knowing this, you have a little bit of a dilemma here, right? Although you can maybe read the ball off the short hop really easily and may like take a half volley, so if someone hits a lob, actually it's a little easier just to half volley like this and use the pace. You might not want to take the ball really low in your strike zone, right? If the ball is softer, you might want to let it sit up a little bit more in your strike zone so you have more, a little more margin and clearance over the net hitting it from here instead of here. But it's a dilemma, right? And it's based on your shot selection. Now at the top of your strike zone, if someone hits a high bouncing topspin, I know we talked hitting the ball at the peak, you have to sort of balance and decide whether do you want to hit the ball outside your strike zone but take the ball at the peak, or do you want to hit the ball a little bit more comfortably in your strike zone but have more movement and take the ball on the rise. So like it depends on your opponent you're playing, it depends on your play style, it depends on your court position. Are you far back or are you attacking inside the court? So there are a lot of scenarios. The one thing I want you to just be aware of here is to be proactive about where you're hitting the ball in your strike zone instead of reactive. Okay, if I'm proactively knowing, like, I want to take the ball low, I want to take the ball high, then I can at least run strategy. If I'm letting the ball play me, essentially, you see some players, it's just they hit the ball wherever it comes, and that's just haphazard tennis. That's definitely not ideal moving forward. Notice the cones at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to hit 3 balls. First ball, I'm going to take it at the deep cone. Second ball, the middle cone. Third ball, at the short cone. And wherever the ball comes, I'm just going to contact the ball at that distance. So this is about being proactive, right? I know right off the strings, I know exactly where I'm contacting the ball, and then I can choose my shot selection accordingly. So many times, you aren't taking the ball in your strike zone during a match. But let's say if I get my opponent off the court, right? I'll still take the ball kind of on the rise, even if it's lower in my strike zone, just like that last one. Here, you're going to see something similar, right? If I got my opponent off the court, I'm just going to maybe bunt it in and move forward and come in for the volley. If you can't read the ball and don't have the footwork patterns to execute, the ball is always going to be playing you. So here's one where I take the ball higher at the peak, but I'm moving forward. This is a different scenario where I'm waiting to actually hold my shot and let the ball drop. Again, it's a different scenario, but this will give you so much variety in your game. This next point, you can just see me bunt the ball. Sometimes I'll run back, but sometimes I won't. It depends who you're playing, it depends how you're feeling that day, it depends whether you're being more aggressive for a stretch, all sorts of things. If I see my opponent not recover, I might even take a half volley, even though it might not be as quality of a shot as letting the ball sit up for a short ball. Even Fed has some tough decisions. Here he takes the ball at the peak. Rafa tracks him, runs it down, tough volley. This next shot, Fed's actually going to take the ball on the rise, moving backwards. Rafa actually misses his split step. Whatever you do, this first ball, Fed actually lets the ball sit, hits more spin. Then he takes it early, unexpectedly catches Nadal off guard. But you've got to move with intent. Where in your strike zone you contact the ball will greatly influence whether your shot selection is offensive, neutral, or defensive. All right, and very similar to, like, again, what we talked about in baseball. If it's a bad pitch, you should not swing at the ball. You're not supposed to swing. All right, just like in tennis, if the ball isn't in a great position, you don't have to attack. Now, one of the most common examples, and there are a ton of examples out there, it's the high backhand. That's very common, where even a lot of players, especially players with pretty solid, backhands, think that they can take this high backhand and drive it low and flat through the court. Now, it looks really pretty to drive it low and flat, but where players underestimate is it's really hard to get a lot of juice on that ball. All right, and yes, it looks good, but it sets your opponent up for a ball right in their wheelhouse that they're just gonna clobber you on the next shot, right? On the flip side, if I hit a good ball and I read it out, let's say I get a good read off the strings early, and I know I'm going to take the ball right here in my strike zone and I'm moving forward, I'm playing offense no matter what, right? So whether you play offense, defense, or a neutral shot selection must be played in the appropriate scenario. Let's take a look at a backhand here. So I'm reaching slightly for the ball and I get greedy. I should be playing defense high and deep, but no, I hit hard and get redirected. Same thing where I'm not quite on balance. I should not be attacking. I should be going deep and be setting up my next combo. I'm going to kick it to the student's backhand, and he's not quite good enough to hit it when the line leaves the court open for a redirect. Same thing, that high backhand players fall into that trap. Forehand is different, right? Because the strike zone is much bigger. Now in this point, I'm going to get a high ball to my backhand. The right move is to put air under the ball, play neutral or defensive shot. That's what I do. He hits it well, but not quite good enough to put me away. I'm fortunately able to get back into the point, regain my balance, and catch him off guard. In similar scenario here, I get that ball high to my backhand and I have to restrain myself because I think my backhand is pretty good, right? But no, I got to play a neutral ball so he can't attack it. And players think it's high level just to hit every ball hard. That's not true. But if you happen to catch the ball moving forward and in your strike zone, it's a big mistake not to pull the trigger, and you're going to see that in this point coming up.
Strong.
Well, Federer's pretty impregnable, and if you are going to hit a clean winner past him, you've got to blow this hard. You've got to hit the...
Okay, now, generally speaking, the harder you swing, the harder it is to balance. All right, now for this example, think of your boxer, right? And you're going to throw the hardest punch you can. All right, so you swing at 110%. Whether you hit or miss, let's just say you miss like that, All right, you punch as hard as you can. Now you've knocked yourself off balance. You're open to counterattack. I'm going to get smacked in the face. This is what tennis players do. Okay, when they try to swing too hard, if you don't hit a winner, you don't have the balance to recover. On the other end, he's reaching, so his feet get stuck, and then he hits the ball way too hard, so he doesn't have any time to get back in the court. Now, making contact in your strike zone is one thing to balance, but another thing, if you make contact outside your strike zone, I guarantee you 100%, it's like 10 times as hard to balance if you try to hit that ball hard out of your strike zone. No chance. If you happen to be reaching like this, the golden rule here is you can't hit the shot that you want to hit. You have to hit the shot that keeps you on balance. So for example, okay, if I'm reaching for a ball, that's the incorrect shot. That's the correct shot, okay? If it's low, that's a correct shot. That's a correct shot. So if the ball's outside of my strike zone, I don't want to swing as hard to knock me off balance. I want to either just hit the ball a little softer. What I like to do is maybe slice. I like to maybe stop and pop right here, kind of shorten the kinetic chain a little bit. Throw it back up high on defense. Again, control it with that stop and pop. So you have to have a very good internal sense with your body of when you're off balance, because you can't afford, to lose your balance and get behind on the point, especially unless you're going to hit a winner. Reaching for the ball, unlikely, probably not the best choice. So we're going to do a little drill actually where you have to keep your feet in the same spot, whether the ball's here, whether the ball's here, whether the ball's here or here. It's going to help train your shot selection. You can't hit the shot that throws you off balance. For these wider tosses out of my strike zone, you're going to see I don't lose my center of balance. Right? I keep my balance even though I'm reaching, and most times hitting the ball softer is the answer. If it's in my strike zone, obviously I want to rip it, right? But training your shot selection in a match especially, this might be a big reason why you're leaking points. You're just choosing the wrong shot if you're off balance. And if you're off balance, you're, again, against a good player, you're pretty much done for. Now this point is pretty normal. What I want to see, and you'll see at the end, is he's going to try to hit a ball too hard when he doesn't have his balance, and you'll see what happens. Okay, so this ball right here. Okay, he's not going to get any reward hitting a better shot. That ball should just be thrown up deep. You want to live to fight another day. Now in this point, I'm on the far side. You'll have to look to the far left-hand side of the screen. I'm actually reaching when I hit that winner. And it reminded me of when I was on the balance boards. If someone shanks the ball, or if you don't read the ball off the strings well, like that slice you saw, that's just the shot you have to hit. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today. And I know some of this stuff might seem like just straight up common sense, but there's so much going on in a tennis match. So many variables. This often gets lost in the noise. Now I understand it takes a lot of patience, it takes discipline, it takes quite a bit of practice to be able to just consistently catch a ball in your strike zone. But it's going to be one of the most important concepts you learn from any coach in tennis ever. All right, and when you run into opponents, and there will be these types of opponents out there who are completely oblivious to this. All right, they won't even know what hit them. All right, so comment below. Let me know how this is working for you. If you have any questions, hopefully I can get back to you as soon as I can. All right, so thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.